Well, welcome to My First Rodeo Podcast, the show that asks really cool people a question about the first time they did the things that put them on their path to success. I'm really excited to be joined today by one of my favorite people in the comedic community, Jpaw.
Hi, thanks for having me, Mike. I'm really excited about this.
I'm so glad you're here. And had Jen here for last time, Jen Weeks.
Love her.
So you guys are two of my favorites. I was going to say, sometimes say female comics, but you're just two of my favorite comics.
Oh, thank you.
And you also happen to be females, but you've been doing it a lot longer than I have. You're one of the first people I met in the community through the Comedy Zone club and the circuit. And let's talk about your first. How'd you get into this comedy game?
So I did theater in high school and college, and I've always loved stand-up comedy. Like when I was a kid, my parents and I would watch Seinfeld. We would listen to Bill Engvall CD in the car.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Here's your sign. So we used to listen to that. We would watch all kinds of different stand-up, and I always wanted to do it. I was always a performer some way, and I was actually at a club and met this guy, and he was like, I just got done doing stand-up comedy show, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, man, that's really cool. Like, how do you do that? He's like, oh, huh. I'm like, no, like, I want to do that. Like, he thought he was sitting on me, and I'm like, no, I want to do stand-up comedy.
You did the half Nelson on him.
Yeah. So, next thing you know, I started writing stuff, and I did my first open mic at the Pit off of Beach Boulevard. I don't know if you remember the Pit. It was a converted gas station.
Uh-huh.
So it was like a Little Champs way back in the day, and it was converted gas station into a like rock show punk emo space. It was all painted black.
Sounds nice.
Yeah.
They do weddings there, probably.
Right. And then on Monday nights they did open mics at the Pit.
Okay.
And so I did my first open mic set there, and the first time I ever went on stage, I had a ton of people that I knew. And the guy who kind of knew me, not the same guy who introduced me to comedy, but he kind of knew me, he said my last name wrong on stage.
Yeah. So you weren't Jpaw at the time.
No, I was not Jpaw at the time. I was Jesse Polish at the time, my real name. And he's like, Jesse Polish?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm never going by my real name on stage again.
There's a sign.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And Jpaw was my nickname from cheerleading.
Okay.
I actually did all-star cheerleading, competitive cheerleading before, and there was too many Jessies and Jessicas on the team.
Yeah, Jessicas and Brittany's.
Oh, yeah, and Stephanie's. We had a ton of Stephanie's, Brittany's, and Jessies. So my coach just one day went, Jpaw.
Right.
And I was like, what is that? He's like, Jpaw, like J-Lo, Jpaw. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that'll work.
And it stuck, and so when that guy said my name wrong on stage, I was like, never again.
That's pretty good.
Jesse
So you learned
Polish.
that. That was one of your first lessons in comedy.
Yes.
You remember your first joke or any of your first jokes?
I kind of do remember one of my first jokes. I talked about my dog trying to OD on pain medication because he took my pain medication, all at one time. So I talked about, what did he have to complain about? Something like that about, all he did was like sit on a roof and it's like compared to Snoopy, I think.
Nice.
Something really bad. It's
like
really
it.
stupid, yeah. And then there was something about cows and what do cows think? Are they bored?
It was a very animal-laden first set.
Apparently, yeah.
I don't remember ever you telling animal jokes.
No, I've moved on a little bit since then.
Definitely a lot more, and for those who know your comedy or anyone who doesn't, you can check her out, Jpaw Comedy, is that what you find
On
you?
Facebook,
Yeah, Duval Famous, among other things, but a lot of dating-related humor.
Yes, yeah.
And
grew up a little bit.
You and
from
I
the
have that in
cows.
common. When I started, I was married, and I was like, oh, this poor person having to do all this dating jokes, and now
And now you've now joined the pain.
now I'm in the pit with you.
Are you doing the online dating?
Yeah,
sucks, doesn't
it does suck. It sucks for me in particular. I'm a lot older than you, and I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know, people send you all kinds of pictures and stuff, and I'm only supposed to send pictures back, and they don't even send them because they like the way because they like you. They just like the way they look that day.
Right, and they want the validation that day.
Yeah, it has
That's the
nothing to do
biggest
with me. It's just them feeling good about themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have a theory, like one of my jokes I talk about it, my theory about online dating is you're either too hot,
Right.
too ugly, or too poly.
Yeah.
Those are the three that are in the dating circuits, online dating.
Those are the things they are two of for you?
Yeah.
I gotcha.
They're either too hot for me, so like we're not going to be compatible because they're too hot, or they're too ugly, or they're looking for like their fourth person to join their situation.
Well, I'm surprised we haven't come up on each other's circuits yet. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not within your parameters, but I get these. I find these ones like I'll, I'm not old, but I'm not young, and and then sometimes they'll be like, kind of an old, sad person who, reach out to me with the chat feature and say something, innocuous but sweet, and I'll be like, oh, that's so sweet, and then I'll swipe her away, and then I'll go back to sending sweet, innocuous emails to women that are way hotter than me. So it's the great leveler.
Do you ever take the pickup line somebody else gave you and use it on somebody else?
Well, if I ever get a pickup line, Jpaw, I'll let you know. I think you and I are having very different experiences here.
I mean, some of them are bots. So there is that. Have you come across the dating bots?
Yeah, I mean, I have a joke. I say, you kind of find the people that are attracted to you on the websites or on the dating apps, and the people that are most attracted to me are men in foreign countries trying to steal my identity. And I didn't realize in the beginning, I keep getting the same like really hot Asian lady. Yeah. It's like I think I already saw her before, but for some reason she's interested in me, and I'm like, I don't know. I never thought about dating a 30-year-old, and then they're like, hey, would you reach me in some offline room or something like that, and then I realized after the 9th time that that's probably not legitimate.
Did you give the information though, or no?
I don't know what's information. I've given my phone number.
Oh no, that's not bad.
I don't. What can you do with the phone number?
Scam artists have your phone number. People who have to do scams have your phone number, so that's not a big deal.
I guess I had a crazy scam today. Not to me, but I. Lawyer by day, comedian, and podcaster by night. And one of my clients, who's a prominent person, smart person, well-educated person, calls me and he says, I need your help, or he texts me and calls me right away. So I call him and he conferences me in. He's on the phone with the sheriff's office in the neighboring county. Okay. And they said he did not show up for jury duty and they're going to come to arrest him. And so
that escalated quickly.
Yeah, so I'm talking to them, and I said, what is your name, officer? After I introduced myself, and he gave me a name, and I was like, so can you tell me what's going on? And he describes the situation, and I still don't entirely get the scam because it turns out to be a scam. But he's like, are you going to be bringing your client down here? I was like, yeah, well, sure, if we need to. I said, but I do have one question for you, St. Johns County, Florida. I said, can you tell me who the sheriff of St. Johns County is? And he hung up.
Oh my God, I love that.
I told my my friend / client, I was like, yeah, that was a scam. And then I Googled it, of course. I was Googled jury summons scam. That was the thing. They were saying he hadn't shown up for jury duty. And he was going to be arrested. Now, if they were like, give us $250 and you won't get arrested, but there was no ask.
Because that was like the IRS thing that they were doing. Like, you owe money to IRS, send me $500 in gift cards, and you're fine.
Yeah, but there was no ask. It just seemed like he was scared. He was really scared.
Yeah, I mean, see, knock on wood, I've never been summoned for jury duty.
Right.
And I always had a joke. It's like, back when I lived in the condo, we didn't always check the mail regularly. So I said, I feel like one time I'm going to be summoned for jury duty and not make it, and then I'm going to have like a warrant out for my arrest.
They get upset every once in a while, but if you just miss it, I like to think. I mean, when he texted me, he's like, can you get arrested for not showing up for jury duty? I was like, I've never heard of that happening. And certainly we were able to debunk this one pretty quickly, and apparently it's prominent. So listeners, pay attention, and if somebody tells you did not show up for jury duty, that's
ask
probably...
them who the sheriff is.
Ask them who the sheriff is.
Make sure you know who the sheriff is first.
Or if you're a scammer and you're listening to us...
and make sure you know who the sheriff is.
Know who the sheriff is if you're going to call and pretend you work for the sheriff's office.
I had one the other day. I had a text the other day that was a scam.
Yeah?
And it came through this number I didn't know, text message, and it said, do you want to come over tonight? I'm making a chicken. And I was like...
That's a good line, by the way. I might use that.
You should. Yeah. And I was like, making a chicken? Like, who makes a chicken?
Right.
That's very...
It's almost like they're creating a chicken.
Right. So I was like, huh. And I sent the screenshot to my group chat of friends, and somebody is like, oh, I had that same thing. Huh. And I was like, oh. And they're like, first of all, I'm upset. They thought they were going to be the only one at dinner.
Right.
And so I sent back to the text message, this scam sounds delicious.
Huh?
And they never replied back. So I got ghosted by a scam artist.
Or you missed a really good chicken dinner.
Yeah, free winner chicken dinner.
Hey, I'm excited to introduce to you and to our guests, our first guest today. He's we've had a lot of athletes lately, and this is a really cool one. He's a Jacksonville-born guy who played football in high school, but also got into track. So much so that he became an Olympian and competed in our last Olympics as a decathlete, and really nice guy. I think you're going to really love him, and I think our listeners will as well.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to welcome to the show Garrett Scantling. Well, Jpaw, I'm excited to introduce to you one of my friends, but also an amazing athlete. We have absolutely nothing in common athletically. This guy I've known since he was a kid, because this is funny. His mom used to cut my hair back when I had hair.
Your hair?
Yeah.
Hair, yes.
But Garrett Scantling is a monster. He is a specimen. He is a natural-born athlete, and he is an Olympian. He's the first Olympian on my first rodeo, and competed in the last Olympics. Came in, how do I say this in a way that softens the blow? Came in fourth, man.
You can say it how it is.
They need another color. They need something after
fourth
gold.
By 6 seconds in the miles.
No, it was
very,
the most
very close.
Most interested I've ever been in the Olympics, to be honest, was watching you as a lot of people.
But I appreciate that.
You were incredible. You got some records along the way, and a decathlete. I don't know if do you know what decathlon is?
I've heard of it, but I don't know if I could explain it. There's running involved,
I can
right?
go through it really quick if you'd like.
Yes.
So in the decathlon, there are 10 events over 2 days, and they're spaced out 30 minutes in between each event. So you got 5 events a day. Start with the 100 meters, the long jump, shot put, high jump, 400 meters. Then you go, then you rest, you ice up, go for the day 2, which is 110 hurdles, discus, pole vault, javelin, and then the mile, which is 1,500, 100 short of a mile.
So how do you get in? I mean, I know you were a great athlete as a kid. I know you played at Episcopal, like your brother, who's an amazing baseball player.
Yes.
So my kids go to Episcopal, so I know the drill there. If you're a great athlete there, you got to play everything because there's not a lot of great athletes there.
Right.
We'll talk about that later since you're coaching there.
Yeah, I know, right.
But, all of these events are very different skills. So how does it come that you're like, yeah, I guess I could do all those?
Yeah, so it was, I got recruited, my main sport was football. I was a football player, just like any American kid. You grow up just like, oh, football, that's what I want. And that's my dad instilled it in me. And when the offers didn't really pan out the way that I expected them to for college, I turned to track. Track was something that I picked up in 7th grade. Just my English teacher was like, try this out, because I was a baseball player and that was way too slow for me.
Right.
And my English teacher was like, just try it, see how it goes, and I fell in love with it. I mean, little Garrett, just all this energy, and I could put it into something that I loved. And so I grew up doing the hardest event in the decathlon, which is the pole vault, because that's the hardest event in track and field to technically learn. And I did that in the high jump. And so just knowing that I'm a jumper, and the college coaches for track looked at my football tape and realized I'm an athlete, so they wanted to give me a shot and gave me a chance to do something different. And I knew that the way that I could get through college and earn my college scholarship was by doing something that I'm not comfortable with, which was 10 events instead of 2.
Yeah.
And doing the mile, doing the 400 instead of just doing the pole vault and the high jump, which those are like pole vault is hard, but physically, like how you get out of breath, and compared to a 400 or a mile or an 800, it's easy.
Right.
And so when you switch from not running at practice to training for a mile or training for the 400 meters, it's a big shock to your system, but I adapted to it, and it's something I'm proud of, for sure.
I bet. So it's not till college where you're first offered the opportunity to do all 10 events.
Because actually in Florida, at the time, they didn't allow javelin. They didn't. I think for the safety of...
It was the lawn darts problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Back to the old lawn darts.
So I never got the chance to do a decathlon. Honestly, I went for the heptathlon, which is indoors, which is 7 events, and then the decathlon, which is outdoors. And I thought the indoor season was in December and November. That's how clueless I was about the events. That's how clueless I was about what I was walking into. But I think that helped a little bit, because it made me not think about, too much, and just go out there and trust in my athletic ability and just have fun with it. And that's what
So you
happened.
said 7 events, not enough. Let's do 10.
Exactly.
Love it.
Well, I prefer the indoor one for sure. The heptathlon, everything is shorter. You don't have to run the mile.
Yeah.
It's a 1,000 meters. But the recognition in the big events are outdoors. Everyone cares about outdoors. That's the Olympics. That's the world champs. So I had to get used to it.
So at some point they're just like, here, throw this, toss this, jump over this. I mean, you're doing each of these things for the first time at a very high level. Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing other people, when you're being handed a javelin for the first time, maybe have been doing it for, 10 years?
Exactly. So my sophomore year at Georgia, University of Georgia is where I went to school. Sophomore year there, we got an Estonian decathlete that came in. His name is Michael Weibo, and he had been doing the decathlon for about 8 to 10 years up until that point, since he was 10 years old. And that's just kind of how he was raised up through it. And
because they don't have TV in Estonia,
yeah,
right?
Exactly, right. They have a boarding school basically just for track and field.
Right. No video games.
And, right. So he kind of changed my outlook on everything, taught me how to work, came in and just, he was always lifting. He was always working out, always thinking about things track and field. And I'm very competitive. And so that kind of changed my mindset. And I just realized I had to work harder. You know, I have great body control from all the sports that I did growing up. You know, I have a lot of confidence in my abilities and in myself. So, you know, just using those 2 tools that I had and going out there and trusting in my coach, who Petros Kyprianou, he is the best Maltese coach in the world still. You know, it just helped out, and I just went for it.
And for our listeners, Maltese meaning multiple events? Is that
multiple events? Yes.
All right, got to get this vernacular down.
I know.
So like
yes,
Maltese
for our listeners,
would be a girl. So for girls, it would be the heptathlon or the pentathlon. So
Yeah.
they do 5 events indoors.
Right.
And then for the guys, it's the decathlon and heptathlon. So all 4 of those are the Maltese.
Yeah.
They give you a scholarship to University of Georgia,
Yes.
not knowing if you could do
Right.
3 of the 10 events.
Right,
basically.
exactly. So that's a big part of my process and my story, actually. So I grew up a Florida State fan, huge Florida State fan. Track and field is an equivalency sport, right? So unlike a football or a basketball, they have to give out, or they can give out percentages of scholarships. So like with football and basketball, it's head count. So they have to give out full scholarships to fill a 12-man roster or a 53-man roster to say. So I got offered... so my top 3 schools for track were Florida, Florida State, and Georgia. Florida State was my dream school. I went there first. They looked me in the face. They offered me books for a semester. So it's like basically a 5% scholarship.
And your brother was a starting pitcher at the time.
Brother played there. He was a junior at that time at Florida State, and they wanted me there so badly, and I was just like, Mom, this doesn't seem
give you a bookmark.
right. Yeah, exactly. And it was for a semester. I was like, this doesn't seem right at all.
I'm not even going to read the books.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And so that just kind of, I was done with it there. Went to Florida, and it was better. It was tuition. So that was great, but I just kind of didn't feel in the right place at Florida. The campus just didn't feel right for me. And then I went to Georgia. It was a day after prom, my senior year. That's how late this all happened. I was exhausted. There was no one on campus because they had just got done with exams. And I just fell in love with the place. Fell in love with the buildings, the brick buildings, the old style, just the old South, how the trees just, I don't know. It was something different. And they offered me 60% out of state. The coach, it just kind of showed me that he was willing to go that extra mile to invest in me. And I think that changed my outlook. If I would have went to a Florida or Florida State, I don't know if I would have given the effort that I did for my coach just because I know how much he sacrificed to get me there. So it was huge for me, for sure.
That's great. That's really neat. And so you get there, and how quickly are you having to pick up these additional events? And
Immediately. I mean, I get thrown into the fire, so to speak. And I had to learn. So when you go from high school to college, the hurdle events, they go up 4 inches. So I had to learn 42-inch height without ever hurdling before in my life. I had to learn the rhythm. It's just all different, just body control exercises that it was very, very frustrating. That first year was probably the most frustrating year I've ever had in sports.
Now, if somebody is listening, though, you are very tall, so I want them to understand the height comparison.
Yes.
So
yes,
how
I'm
tall are you?
6'3". So
6'3".
yes, but I also with that I was 5'6" in 10th grade.
I do remember you as a little kid.
Very, very, very tiny growing up. My brother was 6'2" in
Excuse
6th
me,
grade.
we don't call 5'6"
Yeah,
very tiny.
compared to my brother and compared to my family.
Fair
so
what he is now, it's all
right. My dad's 6'2", my uncle was 6'5", my brother's 6'8" now. So like
6'8".
I just kind of grew up in a big person household, and I was always the tiny one.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up with ADHD, so I was always on my medication up into 10th grade. 10th grade and 11th grade summer, I got off of it, and I grew 5'11". When I graduated and went to college, I was 6'1", and then when I graduated college, I was 6'3". So my body kept developing. I was a late developing person, kept getting taller, kept getting bigger, and I think that helped too with everything.
Wow.
Mike, are you on ADHD?
I was going to say, you think that's what's been holding me back?
See, I attribute it to it, but who knows?
It could
but I
be.
just kind of.
I still have eligibility, so
There you go. And we know you run, so you never
Yeah.
know what can happen.
not fast. Although we did get to run together. That was
we
fun.
did, absolutely.
Garrett
Is
was
he
kind
faster
enough
than
to.
you?
Well, he yes, but he chose to run with me after I ran, my fundraiser each year is 6 marathons in 6 days.
Yes.
He came out as our master of ceremonies for the last event this year and ran the last 5K with us. So, I mean, I got a head start, but I was a little tired.
He did a lot more than I did, trust me.
Kind of funny, and I guess this happens all the time. He and I, ran in the beginning, and I think we were just going to coast, but then there's people challenging him, like wanting to beat an Olympian.
That's exactly what it was.
And at some point, Garrett's like, I think I just got to go.
And I think I waited just a little bit too long, too, because I came in second to the one guy.
Oh,
and
man.
he kicked at the end. I was like, you know what? I should have started a little sooner. But that's all right. Like that actually, so after doing that, it got me into wanting to run more. So now I'm up to about 30 to 40K a week.
I'm glad I could inspire you.
I'm out there in San Marco. I'll do my loops, and it's really nice to just kind of empty everything else away and just concentrate on my steps.
Included or just straight?
Sometimes I'll go over the Main Street Bridge. I went over the Acosta Bridge one time. I'll never do that again.
Yeah. That one side is worse than the other side.
Yeah, I paid the price for that. When I stood up on top of the bridge, and I was just standing there for like 5 minutes. I was like,
it is kind of funny though, because
It makes me feel better when I do it.
That's exactly right. Premier athletes, I mean, no disrespect, but you guys are a little spoiled. Yeah. And we were talking about that because, I just go run, like this place where we were running, it's just like streets, sidewalks, grass.
Yeah.
And, he's used to them, whatever, paving and smoothing out the atmosphere.
Yeah.
He's got amazing tracks he gets to run on.
Yeah, exactly.
And, so, I mean, I don't get to practice on hills. I need hills for marathon training.
Right.
And the bridges are all I got for that.
Yeah, that's
so have you done the Gate River Run then?
I did the Gate River Run in 8th grade. I did it in my Episcopal track uniform, actually.
Oh, wow.
And when I tell you, probably the hardest part of the Gate River Run was going down the Hart Bridge.
Yeah, you got to control it.
Yeah, like my wheels were turning way too fast. I'm really tired. Yeah, and that's actually the last time that I run it.
I did it one time on a stress fracture.
Ooh.
And I didn't know that I had a stress fracture.
Maybe that's why you had a stress fracture.
Actually, it was like leading up to it, training-wise.
Yeah.
It was the worst. I limped the entire way.
I bet
it was horrible.
That was tough.
Horrible.
Yeah, so I actually stood out there this year and cheered everyone on. I stood on Hendricks Avenue.
Oh, nice.
And I stood there with my bike, and I was clapping, and everyone's like, come on, probably like 7 to 10 people, please take my bib number, run. Why aren't you running this? I saw so many people I knew, so next year I'm going to give it a shot, and that's I've started my training now.
Okay, you guys heard that, right? So
Yeah, you heard it here first.
Breaking news.
So I think Jpaw's favorite part of your firsts, and I don't know if she knows this, she's one of your bigger football fans in the world. Certainly a Jaguars fan. She's when they interview like the token fan in Jacksonville, it's often
Nice.
her.
There we go.
So this guy signed with the Atlanta Falcons. And I know you and I've talked a little bit about it. I want to talk about that. Obviously, you don't wind up playing once the regular season starts.
Right.
But obviously you were fast, and obviously you weren't banged up or bruised like a lot of football players because you hadn't played college football. So tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so that was so after 2016 in Olympic trials, I came in 4th. So they take top 3 to the Olympics. and I retired from track. And I've always, like I told you, I love football. That was always my first sport. My offers going into college were like FAU, FIU. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, FAU pulled the scholarship 2 weeks before, and that's kind of what led into the whole track thing happening. They gave it to another athlete that was
it Blake
athletic
Blake Bortles?
No, yeah, I know, right? That is UCF, right?
First so that was
right. So I always had this like itch. My dad always wanted me to try it. I knew I was athletic enough. I have great hands. And so I started training from October, November, December, and January with a coach named Larry Kirksey in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And I was training how to run my routes, how to, work in the classroom, how to, just be a wide receiver, basically. And I got a chance to... Actually, my pro day was at Jacksonville University. Okay. I did it here. Funny, I found the tape of it the other day, and I watched the whole thing. It's so crazy to just kind of full circle and think about it again. But
that's pretty neat.
So after the pro day, the next week, the Atlanta Falcons had like their drafty workout kind of thing for the new draft people coming in for getting ready for the draft thing. And I worked out with them, and they were like, they wanted me to try wide receiver and they wanted me to try DB. And I had a great fun-loving attitude, how I always do. And they're like, oh, I love how you just don't care and you just go for it. And you just like, whatever, just bring it to me, throw it at me. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I've always been. Well, the next day they called my agent and they said, we want to sign you. Like, we want you to come in for off-season workouts, see how you do. And I mean, it was awesome. I was emceeing a decathlon when I got the call because I had stopped doing the decathlon and I was announcing the whole thing, and I was on the track. I remember getting the call and just being so happy. My coach was so happy for me, and off-season workouts started, and this was beginning of April, and so I went in there. Julio Jones, mm-hmm. Mohamed Sanu, mm-hmm. Justin Hardy, just an incredible wide receivers room, and I just got thrown into the fire, and it was just like I had to learn how to adjust your routes real time. I had to learn, when I tell you, they had a nickname for me was Scant Man. I don't know how it came. That's the first time anyone's ever called me Scant Man in my life.
Your last name is Scantling.
But but I'm usually like G Scant, like G, something cool, Scant Man. I don't know.
Did you argue, try to get a better nickname?
I tried, but it didn't really work out.
I would argue with those guys.
So and that's what I figured out really fast. So like in track and field, you have an opinion. Right. Everything is how you feel. I mean, you got to...
It's very individual...
It's your individual event. So the coach is asking you, how does this feel? How does this feel? Well, you don't really get a say in football, and I forgot about that. Yeah. And so like I'm getting off the line in a drill, and the coach says I did something. I swear I didn't do it. And I'm like, Coach, but it didn't seem like I did it that way. And he's like, wait, what? Like, hold on. Like, starts screaming at me. I'm like, oh, all right, this is different. Let me change my whole approach to this. So it was really cool being in the room with those guys, learning. From Raheem Morris, who's the defensive coordinator with the Rams now. He was the wide receivers coach for the Falcons, which is crazy.
I was about to say that's like totally, literally opposite side of the ball.
Exactly. But he, just kind of took me under his wing a little bit and helped me out as much as he could. And then rookie minicamp came around. I went through rookie minicamp, and then OTAs started happening. And when I was around, like, the rookies, it was fine. It was fine because they were all learning it the same way I was. Mm-hmm. But when I got into, it was just the team and NFL players learning how to adjust your routes and learning, like, how to know what you're running in the huddle. It's so much different than what I was used to. Mm-hmm. And in track and field, like, all I had to think about is turning left, or I prepare my mind for one word phrases to, execute, or it's all muscle memory. Like, mm-hmm. I practice the same thing every day. And so I know what I'm doing. And so when they started, all right, audible, this, that, I'm running the wrong routes. I'm like, oh crap. Like, I'm in the wrong spot. Like, this isn't working out really well. Well, towards the end of OTAs, I got called into the office, and they're like, look, I'm sorry. We're so glad that you were here, but it's just not working out. And that was tough. That was really hard. I called my dad, my agent, just like, I don't know what, like, I thought they were going to give me some time mm-hmm. to figure it out, because, it was a month and a half I was in there. And it's a lot to kind of take in. Like, athletically, I'm fine, but just learning the whole playbook and learning a whole brand new set of just ideals and
muscle memory.
Exactly. Yeah. And learning how to break off your routes and stop running. I don't ever stop running. Like, that's not a thing for me.
Yeah. And then if you're lucky enough to catch the ball, somebody's going to hit you.
Right. But, and to this day, that was never an issue. Catching the ball, if they threw anything to me, I'm always proud of my hands. Yeah. Hands have always been, my hand-eye coordination is one of my best attributes. So that
you're proud of your hands as well, aren't you, Jpaw?
Sure, yeah. I mean,
right. Look, see, yeah.
I mean, his are a little bit nicer than mine, but I mean, I get my nails done.
There we go. Yeah.
So, how old were you then when you were going through this whole process?
So that would have been 16. That would have been 17. So I was 24.
So you were a little older.
Yep, a little older. I was 24, which is old to start in the NFL, which is weird because, like, I don't know, 31, 32, 33. Is old for track, but then in football it's completely different.
Yeah.
But once again, I signed on that contract line, and you see the financial
possibilities.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? I mean, you're like, all I got to do is make the team. Well, that's a lot harder than you think.
So do you and 10 other guys. You know,
exactly, in the same position. So, so what honestly, that whole experience, well, after that, I got a tryout with the Jaguars, came here for 3 days. I thought I did awesome. I did so much better than I did in Atlanta. Keenan McCardell was the coach at that time. His son, I actually coach him, KJ, at Episcopal. But so he told me, he was like, look, if you would have came here for OTAs, like before the rookies got here, like you did with Atlanta, we would have a different situation. Oh. But since they had Amba Editawo at that time, that was Keelan Cole's first year.
Eric Cole. Yeah.
And it was just kind of impossible for them. They had already put so much effort and so many lessons into these people.
And that was Marone's last year, right, as a coach.
Yep,
so they really were...
They were struggling at wide receiver.
They were...
So I was like, I can come in here. I'm doing awesome. Like, this is great. Right. Like I might have scored like maybe 3 times in one practice. Like I did incredible, and I really thought that it was going to happen, but they didn't sign me. They said it didn't work out. And then from that point on, that's when I became a financial advisor here in Jacksonville. I stayed here. I was like, you know what, I'm done with athletics. And honestly, that whole situation taught me one simple principle that I applied when I came back to track, and it was, if you want to dream, you have to work your tail off for it, harder than anyone else, harder than anyone you can imagine them working, or else they will come in and they will take your dream away from you. And it was as simple as that. And just believing in that with all of my heart going into the Olympics, going into 2020, 2021, it really turned it up to 12, 11. I don't know. What is it? Is it turning up to 12?
Are you a Spinal Tap fan?
Yeah, it was right? That's what I thought.
Mine goes to 11.
Yeah, okay. So
old school.
I really do, attribute a lot to that experience for sure.
I took something away from it too. I mean, in hearing your story in this way, I mean, you've done so many things in a non-traditional way. Came to them later in life than most people do. You're still a young person, but for each of the things that you tried and then excelled at the highest level, and even to get 2 opportunities to try out for NFL teams with no real football experience, no college experience, and Episcopal was, I'm sure you were a star there, but it wasn't a great team.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, all we did was pass the ball, so that's why it worked out for me.
Yeah.
We had, all we did was pass. Our quarterback at the time, actually Episcopal, so... Yeah, I'm not going to go that far, but our core team back then, I mean, we had probably 4 or 5 D1 players. We had Shaquille Rashad played at UNC. Eric Schneider played at Duke. He was a tight end at Duke. Like we had my quarterback was actually, he still is the FBS or D3 passing yards leader. He went to Methodist University in Fayetteville. So we had some
players.
We had some players, but we had 22 people on our team my senior year. So
you played both ways.
I never came off the field. Yeah.
And for our national listeners, Episcopal High School of Jacksonville, wonderful school. There's a couple of really good schools in Jacksonville, a lot of them. but one of them is very athletically oriented, and we could wonder how they're able to get such good athletes. Yep. But Episcopal plays, they take the students to come there, and I will say my children who've gone there have been blessed because they let you play even if you play like I do.
Right.
I mean, one of my daughters
you're not
played.
Giving yourself enough credit here.
Well, one of my daughters played soccer her sophomore year. Had never played soccer before. I mean, what high school would let a 10th grader who's never played? And they were, okay. But she had a good time, and that's
good.
what
that's
probably.
What it's about. I mean, that's the whole point of it, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about your latest first rodeo. You're a coach now.
Yes, I am.
That's awesome.
Yes, I am a coach, Episcopal School of Jacksonville. It is something that I did not expect to find as much joy in it as I am. I've always wanted to, since coming back to track in 2019, I've always thought that I was going to be a coach. But I thought that it was going to be at the NCAA level. But just moving back here to Jacksonville and just being around Episcopal, being around the students, it really made me want to give back to that school as much as it gave to me. And I think that it's been super rewarding, not only for me, but the athletes as well. Just, they have me as the program director of women's weightlifting. It's the first year that we had it this year. We had 32 girls sign up.
Wow.
And so that's just kind of, it's so
definitely
rewarding.
for his weightlifting abilities, let me tell you.
Right, that's what I'm telling you. So we retained 20 of them. So
wow.
They really, really enjoyed it. I had a couple girls come in, didn't know how to lift a bar the first day they walked in. And by the end of the season, they were qualifying for regionals. And so it's just for me, just knowing that I can instill that sort of confidence in a young woman that I've never had that sense of I've never been in a position to do that. I've been a volunteer coach for Georgia while I was training, and, I helped out some of the athletes there. But in a sense of someone that everyone looks up to and looks for guidance, I've never had that experience before, and being able to have that at a place like Episcopal, a place that made me who I am, it's been priceless. I mean, so rewarding in so many ways that I can't describe. So
you do the women's weightlifting. Is there anything else that you coach there?
I coach middle school football, which that's the most fun that I've had coaching. They go out there and I'm running routes against the kids in full pads like they're trying to tackle me. It's a blast. Program director of women's weightlifting, and then director of field events for track. So everything from the pole vault to the javelin. I do all the throws, the jumps, and the vault. So
you do this on top of, you said you're also a financial advisor?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow. Wow, that's a lot.
No. So before
That was the settling job.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
that was what I settled
exhausting.
into. So 2017 to 2019, 2020, I was a financial advisor. And then I stopped to come back to track.
Okay.
And when I realized that track was going to work out, I kind of...
the usual path, you stop financial advising to go to the Olympics.
Yeah, exactly, right? And that was, so I worked at Principal Financial Group here in Jacksonville. It's right up the street. And they supported me for a year after I stopped, going into work. I explained to them that this is my dream. This is what I wanted to do. And they said, we're not going to punish a young man for chasing after his dreams. So they supported me all the way through going to the Olympics, and I could never repay them for that. It's been
So
been
if you need
incredible.
financial advising.
Principal Financial Group.
Principal Financial Group. We're getting sponsors from Spotify now, but we are open to Principal Financial Group. We'll give them a freebie here. Before we leave Episcopal, I want to say, and I've told you this, you have a wonderful, not just an ability to help the students there, but your heart. And I will say, one of my daughters in particular, when they see you across campus, you call the kids out by name, you smile, you give hugs, and man, that just, it's tough to be a middle schooler. It's tough to be a high school girl or boy, and you make it easier for them. So thank you, one grateful parent to a young man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
One thing I think everybody always wants to ask about is Olympic Village.
There we go.
All right. So.
A little different for me, right? Because 2020, 2021, we were going through COVID.
Yeah.
And so just the total experience was different. I could only get there. I missed opening ceremonies because you can only get there 2 weeks before your event at most, and my event was at the end.
Oh, right.
And so I got there after having a training camp here in Jacksonville. I got there in the middle of July, and when I tell you we would go, I'd get on the bus, we'd go train, we'd drive about 45 minutes to Team USA's village, or they had their own separate like training camp village. I'd train, and then I'd come back to the village. The village took about maybe 10 minutes to cross, 10 to 15 minutes. You had to wear your mask the whole time. Everyone was getting tested randomly.
You had to get
tested every day. You had to spit in a tube, so you knew everyone wasn't.
Right.
You knew what was happening, and everyone for the COVID sense of it. But you had the shops in the front. Then you'd walk through the shops. You'd come around a big road. And then you'd just see the whole village. It probably had like 15 towers of everyone had their flags out on their balcony. In the middle of everything, they had a huge dining hall that was 2 stories high, and you can go on either side. The food was fine. It was they had it from all over the world. I mean, and so it was not like you could ask for give me more flavor in this, but I stuck to the spaghetti. I stuck to the Japanese food because the sushi and the ramen and all that stuff. They knew what they were doing, but it was just different because so as a person who was expected to, not expected, but I was a medal hopeful. They put me in, I had 4 roommates and they were all medal hopeful. So the first one, Ryan Krauser, he's a world record holder in the shot put.
Right.
He was he won gold in Tokyo. The other one was Bryce Hoppel, who is an 800-meter runner. And then the other one, Sam Kendricks, who is a pole vaulter. Well, if you were keeping up with the Olympics at the time, Sam Kendricks actually got COVID. And he made it to the Olympics, and then they tested him the next day and said, you have COVID, we have to isolate you.
And he was your roommate?
He was my roommate, but we had separate rooms. So 4 rooms, and then we had a suite, 1 bathroom, and then 1 common area.
But still, having the common area and 1 bathroom.
Right, exactly. And so I got put on his close contacts list after that, and so I had to start getting tested every day, and I almost thought I wasn't going to be able to compete. Yeah. And that was really, really scary for me. I mean, I flew 18 hours, like my whole family's waiting for me to compete.
Yeah.
Your family wasn't able to go, right?
No, none of my family was able to go, so that was tough for them.
Yeah.
And it was a different experience. But the fact that, like I said, Team USA's training camp was 45 minutes away. They didn't let us outside of the village. No one could come in who wasn't competing, and no one could go out. Well, at least we got to drive, and I got to see Tokyo. I got to see like cool life-size, not life-size, but I mean 16-story tall poster of Rui Hachimura, he plays for the Lakers now. So I'm a big basketball fan.
That's so cool. I thought you were going to say you saw the Megatron that was really big. So I was like, yes, right. Megatron, but no,
but it was cool because they had it was a highway that literally drove through downtown, and everything was on the move. There were so many people. It was just a different lifestyle. So I definitely enjoyed my time there. Competition was hot. It was very hot there, so having the training camp in Jacksonville helped. But track temperature during the pole vault, which is the 8th event, was 138 degrees. And we had vests that they were cooling vests, and they had ice packs in them. Put it on, 10 minutes later, all the ice was melted.
Wow.
And it was tough out there.
Was it like Jacksonville heat
more
or
humid.
a
lot more humid than it. Yeah. And
so you're also swimming, so it's another it's really 11 events.
Yeah. So that's exactly. So I knew that going into it, and also it was the longest decathlon I've ever had of my life. So the first day you wake up at like 6 a.m. Actually, no, I woke up at like 5, go get breakfast really quick, bus to the track at like 6:30, get there at 7:15, and gun goes off at 9. So, I start my warm-up probably an hour before, and I get up there. I'm already drenched in sweat. I've probably changed twice already.
Oh, man.
And so I knew, I was like, this is going to be tough. And so gun goes off at 9, and the first 4 events, I'm in some sort of trance that I cannot get out of. I don't know if it was just like this moment, and I hate admitting this because I'm a person that I pride myself on my mental ability in certain stressful situations. I don't know if for the first time, the moment was a little big for me.
That's a big moment, man.
And so, like, I was competing, I was going through the motions, and high jump came up, and I jumped like 8 centimeters below my PR. And that's 70 points in the decathlon, which is a lot. Wow. That's the difference between
literally
getting a medal.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was the difference. Wow. I actually remember going into our mix area, or our room that we had as a Maltese room. So like, you had a bunch of beds, like blow up mattresses, like 20 of them. And that's where it smelled terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, just imagine all these international
like
people.
backstage at a comedy show.
Exactly. Yeah, so I remember
Korean room
going.
sounds nicer than ours, actually.
Yeah.
So I remember going back, and I only got 199, and everyone's still jumping, and there's probably one other person in there. I know how bad I did. And I called my mom, and she's sitting on the couch watching with all her friends here. It's super late, and she's with my Uncle James, and he's just like, dude, just go out there and just do what you train to do. Mm-hmm. Don't care about like all the other intangibles that you have no control over. Mm-hmm. And just hearing that and knowing that I had the support back home, I think that might have been the reason why it was tricky for me, because every event that I've done, my family's been there. I've been able to hear my dad in the stands screaming at me.
What I was going to ask was, there was nobody in the stands, right?
I mean, there was coaches and media.
But they're not able to be.
You ask for a clap, which I'm an energetic person.
Yeah.
I always ask for claps no matter what I'm doing. I ask for the clap. It died down by the time I'm about to take my jump. No. I'm thinking about that, right? As much as you don't want to admit that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of differences.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I think that uncomfortable feeling, just for the first 4 events, that's the trance I found myself in. And then after that phone call, I was like, you know what? I got the 400 left, which I'm going to die anyways. Like, this is going to hurt. No matter what, I've been out here. The 400 didn't start. The gun didn't go off until 9:15 at night. So that's 12 hours later. Mm-hmm. And I've been at that stadium for 12 hours. Like, I'm already tired. Well, gun goes off. I'm in lane 9, so I can't see anyone the entire race. I just go. I go for it. I'm like, Garrett, you're going to get tired either way, so you might as well just go for it.
Right.
Well, I get out, and with 300 or with 100 to go, I'm probably 15 meters in front of everybody. And when I tell you I started hurting, the monkey hops on your back and your legs get tired. I ended up running a PR by half a second.
Wow.
And that kind of changed my whole mindset of the whole competition. The volunteers, after I got done running, so I let out a big scream. And if you look at some of my pictures from the Olympics, it's the screaming picture.
That's awesome.
And that's kind of when everything turned.
I think it was your mom's screensaver for the longest time.
So I was the second heat, and there was still another one to go after me, and I'm screaming on the track, and everyone's like looking at me, clapping, like, let's go, Garrett. And I got people in my face, put the mask on. I'm like, get that out of my face. Like, I'm tired, I'm ready to go. So I get home, I fall asleep in my boots, so the Normatec boots. I put them on. I get home at like 12:45, 1 a.m.
These are compression or cooling boots?
So they're compression boots. Okay. And
like the circulation stuff,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I have to eat. So I go to the dining hall. It's still open at like 1:30. I'm sitting there by myself eating. Go up to my room, put the boots on, and fall asleep. And I wake up 5:30. Got to go for day 2. And when I tell you, that wake up was one of the hardest things. Oh, my goodness. So I went to eat, quick breakfast, came back, and gun goes off at 9 again for the 110 hurdles. And we didn't run the 1,500 till, I want to say, 8:30 at night. So it was another 12-hour day. Wow. 110 hurdles go off, and I run really close to my PR. And that kind of let me know that, all right, I'm there. Okay, now we're good. Discus is up next. Discus is what people don't think about. It's probably the most, other than pole vault, it's the most technical event possible. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a dance, right? And
so if I threw a disc right now for the first time ever, like, how far would it go? Like,
I'd probably say 10 meters. Well, you tell me, which way do you think, if I'm throwing like that, which way do you think the disc comes out?
Right, it could wind up going behind me, right?
Or that way.
Yeah.
If you think of that way, that's what most people think. You have to get the spin on it.
Like Frisbee or something.
I was thinking I can't throw Frisbee.
No, so it comes out this way. So you have to push it with your finger. So that's why it's tricky. You get a spin on it, but the other way.
With my little hands, it's not going
anywhere. So that's something people don't realize.
How much does a discus weigh?
2 kilograms, so like 4.4 pounds.
Okay.
So it's heavy enough. It's heavy enough, yeah. But it's the most technical event, and it's usually the one that I don't know. I can never figure it out because it's you go from the 110 hurdles to discus. There's no similarities.
Right.
I didn't throw very well on the disc. Well, then I'm like, crap, here we go again. But then I'm like, okay, pole vault's coming. Pole vault's been my event forever. I mean, this is what got me into track.
Jpaw's pretty good at that one too, to be honest.
Right?
So she can relate here.
I jump to conclusions all the time, so yeah, very good.
So I'm vaulting, and like I said, it's 130 something degrees out there, super hot. But that means the fiberglass is moving, so you can get on bigger poles. 5 meters comes up, which is 16 feet 4 inches, and so usually when you're in a track meet, they call you up on deck and in the hole, so you know who's next and who's after that. They don't do that. There's a screen, and me. This goes back to the ADHD Garrett. I'm talking when in a meet. I'm always talking to people. That keeps me relaxed. So 5 meters.
Are you
is up.
talking to your other competitors? Yes, or do you have handlers? So they shut up already. Yeah.
Right. So that's why I don't know if they knew what was going
not
on.
Even able to prepare because you don't know you're in the hole. You don't know. Oh goodness.
Exactly.
Garrett.
So I'm talking, and it's Ash Maloney. It's actually the guy who ended up beating me, coming in third. And I'm talking to him in the pole vault, and we're actually talking about financial advising. We were talking about he was like, "What did you do before that?" I was like, "Dude, listen."
Once again, this broadcast brought to you by Good Financial.
But I also feel like he knew what he was doing. He was like, "Yeah, so what did you used to do, Garrett?"
Kept feeding it, right? Yeah. Trust me, everyone kind of that was a running joke for sure. Well, I missed so I got up on the runway with 10 seconds left. I'm like, all right, here we go, and I'm freaking out. And I'm like, all right, you know what? Drop the pole. I took the miss. So that's just one miss. I have two to go. Little do I find out, my dad's back in Jacksonville freaking out, like, what is he doing?
Oh, yeah.
What is going on?
Have you ever done that before?
Never. I've never, ever done that. But then I've also never done the screen thing before. So, I've always heard my name up on deck in the hole.
They didn't warn you beforehand? Like, nobody said, hey, by the way, This is how it works?
Nope. I guess they were all just standing looking at me, have a complete conversation with my competitor.
I'm just thinking like a coach would have by the way.
But then again, my coach was coaching the javelin at this time. So I had my teammate is Kendall Williams. She was in the Olympics in the heptathlon, so the girls version, and they were throwing the javelin, and she was in 4th place. So I was like, bro, go over there, go figure out what she needs. And so I had Team USA's standard pole vault coach over there, and it didn't work out that way. But I ended up clearing it.
Yeah.
So everything worked out, and I ended up clearing 5:10. So that got me back into where I needed to be. And then javelin came up, and javelin is one of my best events. And it's kind of where you let out the frustration from all the other events.
Especially if you hit somebody, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, well, I don't know how good that would feel.
No, not to them.
So my first attempt, it was huge. It was right at my PR, and it's exactly what I needed. And going into the 1500, I needed to beat the Canadian I needed to stay within 4 seconds of the Canadian, and I needed to beat the Australian by 14 seconds.
So you got to be doing math while this is going on.
So it's the last event. This is all a point scale. You know exactly how fast you have to run. You know exactly how fast the other person has run before. And my PB at that time was 4:44. And so I went out, and I remember vividly running on the track, and all I hear is, Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. And they start doing their chants and stuff, like the stands, like the coaches. And I remember the Australian is the one I had to beat. So he's standing next to me. I'm like, all right, here we go. Let's go. Let's make this happen. And so there's 2 Australians in the race, and the other one no-heighted in the pole vault. So he didn't have to worry about his score or anything like that. So what he was worrying about was making sure his teammate was far enough behind me. So he was talking to him the whole race. I could hear him talking. I could hear him doing what they needed to do.
Basically, yeah.
So coming to the last lap, I want to say I was about 9 seconds ahead of him. And I was dying. I was moving like it was, I couldn't feel anything from my neck down. That's usually how it goes. And I finished really strong. Well, he kicked in the end. My coach, I remember him saying he started fading. And you were moving, and you could see the gap widening. And then all of a sudden, his teammate turned around and was like, "You got to go." And he took off. I mean, he took off, started sprinting. He's a sprinter. And I mean, he started moving. I ended up beating him by 8 seconds, but I PR'd by 10 seconds in the 1500. So, I mean, when it was a definition of leaving everything out there, there was nothing I could have done in that moment. Yeah, you know what you can do in hindsight with the 5 events the first day, but
that's part
overall,
of it
was, I mean, and honestly, that was the easiest 1500 I've probably ever run of my life.
Wow.
They all stink. But if you run them faster, you get done with them quicker. I guess. So I guess that logic works out.
I mean, how do you stay hydrated in something like that? That big of a heat and so many events, and I mean. So
I packed my bag coming from the States with Pedialytes. Pedialytes are my best friend. Yes. And when I'm in the States, I'll go to Walmart the day before, and I'm going to baby section and getting the big Pedialytes, and I'm drinking at least 2 a day. Oh yeah, that's my favorite. Blue raspberry and the orange. They don't the red one. It tastes like medicine.
Yep.
Jpaw drinks them for different reasons.
I do.
There we go.
Maybe we can also get Pedialyte to sponsor this. We have athletes. They need hydration.
Yeah. So it was overall a great experience. I got back. I remember getting onto or going to the airport to come back to Jacksonville, and it was 2 weeks in. I was so ready to come back home. I was so over it. I was like, I just want to see my family. I want to be there. My flight got canceled for a whole day.
No.
Oh, no.
Because the AC was broken on the flight. I even got upgraded from whatever I was in economy. The pilot saw me before. And he was wearing an Auburn lanyard, and I was like, "Go Dogs, man!" He was like, "Wait, hold on a second, I know who you are." He's like, "Where are you sitting?" And got me a nice upgraded seat.
And then you turned the AC off.
And then the AC stopped working, and so I had to stay an extra day, and so I didn't get back into Jacksonville until a day after I was supposed to, and it was 2 a.m. So my flight from Jax to New York got delayed 5 hours.
Always.
So I'm sitting there.
New York's always delayed.
Miserable.
Always.
And so coming in to see my family, it was 2 a.m. and there was probably 40 of them at the airport. Yeah. And they had an American flag. I started crying. My dad came out to me. The news people were there. It was just seeing the support that I had back here. It's even to this day, it gives me goosebumps. I mean, I'm wearing a sweatshirt, but you can't see it. That's just knowing. And I think that honestly had something to do with me wanting to coach at Episcopal as well. Just knowing the support that I had here during one of the most important times of my life, the most important time in my life. Knowing the family support, the school support, seeing how much they loved seeing me do what I love. I think that's huge for me. And knowing where I came from, it takes a village, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So
one of the most amazing moments of patriotism for me, because I had seen you grow up as a kid and wasn't in your inner circle, but just, I couldn't help but just feel the enthusiasm that your mom and your dad had. And it was the most closely I ever watched the Olympics. Yes. So, man, I'm proud to be able to document all these firsts for you and for us.
I appreciate
that. And I know exciting things are to come as well. So thanks for being with us, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you guys very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Well, he was great, wasn't he?
Oh, my gosh. What a treat. I've always watched the Olympics, and I'm sure I saw it back then, but I wish I knew him before, so I was able to be a little bit more of like a homer, but that was so neat.
You should go watch it on YouTube.
Yes.
I mean, he's wearing a sweatshirt, so you can't just see how hulkingly strong he is, but man, the guy's a monster in a good way. And
when he hugged me when he was leaving, I was like, oh my gosh, why are you, you're like 1,000 feet tall. You're not just 6 feet tall, you're 1,000 feet tall.
Well, we're very little.
Yes.
But what a humble spirit, and crazy how he, starts everything sort of later or at a different path than the traditional athlete or the traditional person, and he still finds a way to exceed at it.
Absolutely, and I love knowing that he's helping children out and kids, and still saying, if it doesn't happen at this time, it's okay. There's always something else, or if you don't excel at this, like, with the football, there's something else that you can be better at. So, I mean, I love knowing that he's out there kind of like molding our young minds. So that's very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I run, but I'm not an athlete like these guys are. But I've been around a lot of athletes, and when you're a really good athlete as a kid, people treat you differently.
Oh, yeah.
And then you go into high school, then you go into college, and you go on, if you're lucky to be in the pros or the Olympics like him, again, rarefied air the whole way through. And then it just ends one day. And it's really a loss of an identity that's different than I think anybody else experiences. Maybe people, even the military. I've often thought there's a parallel there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there are some parallels. You're getting your uniforms provided for you.
Right.
Getting a lot of free stuff. You're obviously people are...
You're more identifiable, because you're wearing those things, and then you're walking around in civilian clothing.
Right.
And everyone knows who you are.
Yeah, and I don't mean to diminish either of those experiences. Obviously, there's nothing like dedicating your life in the military, but there are certain predictabilities that then all of a sudden that's not who you are anymore. And it's a tough transition. He seems to have made the transition really smooth. Yeah,
he's just very upbeat and positive person. And that's why I also asked him, though, too, how much did it mess with your psyche being in the Olympics during COVID?
Yeah.
Because if he was always a top performer, I'm sure, like he said, he's always had family support, I'm sure community support, and then to go to the Olympics and there be absolutely nobody. I mean, we've done shows, right, where we have hundreds of people in the audience, and it's amazing. People are laughing and clapping, and then you have...
Right, nobody.
Yeah, and it's...
A couple of drunk people at a bowling alley.
Yeah, and it's so sad.
It is. It's very different, but your point's well taken. He never had that experience, probably. I mean, he had some practices with no one there, but the competition itself, always crowds, and you get to the thing that's supposed to be the most crowd-supported ever, and there's nobody.
Yeah.
You don't even know when your event's
except for the guy yelling, "Go Aussie, Aussie!" And you're like, "That's not even my team,"
Right? Yeah, that's gonna be a tough one, especially for someone like him who's so wired by their family and so supported by their family.
And I feel like running and things like that's definitely a sport or an event where having more support behind you and crowd cheering would amp you up and make you go better and faster.
Well, and you got to go from 0 to 60 almost literally in literally a matter of seconds. If you're playing basketball or baseball, there's a little bit of time to get a rhythm, get a groove. Right. It's all about the start, and it's over before it starts. None of his events take a long time.
Right.
So it's just about being in the right mindset to go quickly. But those are some weird sports: hurdles, shot put, high jump, long jump. I wanted to ask him about flying because I don't know how do you even do these things for the first time? How do you? What's the first time you pole vault look like?
Yeah, I don't know because I don't. And also, who sat there and went these 10 events?
Right.
Yes, they go together.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Yeah. This is an event, or who took a pole and was like, let's jump over a field goal post.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Greeks, I guess.
Yeah.
But the winter ones are even weirder. You and I were talking about who decided skiing and shooting they go well together.
That sounds like losing an eyeball, I feel like.
Right.
Dropping your rifle and falling straight on it. Yeah, I don't know.
They're both really hard, but for some reason they put those together, which does make it entertaining.
Yeah, that's true.
So, thanks for joining me for Garrett. I think he was amazing and had some incredible firsts, and I know I learned from it.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So stay humble, but brag. That's what I learned.
Stay humble, but brag. I need to work on one of those.